So I do want to let you know that the video is already started. So, yeah, these would be nice. Okay. Here's the part that I am not sure if you are 100% completely understanding. So I'm going to start on that side of the board and I'm going to work my way this way. That way I'm not always in front of my writing. Okay. So my question is, what kind of angles are alternate interior? And are those congruent? Okay, you would like to say yes, but the correct answer is no. Somebody tell me why it's no. No. What's the only time? When is the only time the alternate interior angles are congruent? That's it. When the lines are parallel. The only time alternate interior angles are congruent are when the lines are parallel. Are these lines parallel? No. So are alternate interior angles congruent on this? No. Let me show you an extreme example. Look at angles 3 and 4. Are 3 and 4 still alternate interior angles? Yes. Say yes. Good. Are they congruent? No. Why not? Because they're obviously not parallel. There's still no proof that you could prove one way or the other that they're not parallel. But are they still alternate interiors? Yes. Are they congruent? No. What about 1 and 2? Are 1 and 2 congruent? No. What would you have to provide me to tell me that they are actually congruent?
So the lines are parallel.
That the lines are parallel. So now are 1 and 2 congruent?
Yes.
Yes. Good. So I need you to think about, and I need you to think about it the reverse way. What that means is, what happens if I have angles 5 and 6, and the only other thing that I tell you is that 5 is congruent to 6? Then that means the lines are parallel. Is that the definition or the converse of it? It's the converse of it. Remember, it flips. Alright, so here we go. So my question is now, if you, where'd my little shape go? Alright. I've never made one of these little shapes until this morning, and it was fun to make. So you should go home and try to make one. Anyway, what does this look like? It looks like a parallelogram. Is there any proof that it is one way or the other a parallelogram? No. There's not. There's no proof at all. If it were a parallelogram, what would you know about opposite sides? They're parallel and they're congruent. What would you know about opposite angles? They're congruent. But is this a parallelogram yet? No. So now the converse means that I'm going to give you some information. After I give you the information, you have to tell me yes or no. That makes it a parallelogram. Does that make a little sense? Yeah. So we're kind of going backwards. All right. What happens if I tell you that both pair of opposite sides are congruent? Would that force it to be a parallelogram? No. If both pair of opposite sides are congruent. Yes. Okay? Indirectly it would. Now we could walk through this whole mathematical proof, but let's don't do that. We'll just take Mr. Brown's word for it right now. If I just say that both pair of opposite sides are congruent, is that enough to prove that it's a parallelogram? Yes. Shake your head. Yes. What if I told you that both pair of opposite angles are congruent? Is that enough? Both pair of opposite angles are congruent. Yes. Okay? As long as the pairs are congruent, actually it's going to be true. Isn't that a property of a parallelogram to start with? Okay? So this is what I'm doing. Is this a parallelogram? Question mark. What about now? Is it a parallelogram? No. Could be, couldn't be, doesn't have to be, nah, don't know, right? Okay? So then question number 1. Is this a parallelogram? Yes. Yes? You think so? Yes. Why? Okay, so therefore the converse is true. If in a quadrilateral both pair of opposite angles are congruent, then it has to be a parallelogram. Yes, sir?
For it to be a parallelogram,
Yep.
Does it have to meet one of the properties or all of them?
If it meets one of them, it will then meet all of them. Okay? In your textbook, on page 401. Page 401. What would that mean in Spanish? Quarento?
40, yeah.
No, that's Quarento. I'll think about it. Hold on. Okay. Anyway. Alright. What page are we on in English? 401, alright. I need you to look at that yellowish box, gold box, whatever that is. Okay, these statements right here are all the converses. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a shape. You're going to compare that shape to what's in the box. And then you're going to decide which of those statements prove or disprove this being a parallelogram. So number 2. We'll just do this. 50 degrees, 130 degrees, and 130 degrees. Does that prove that it's a parallelogram? Yes. Why?
Opposite angles are congruent.
Okay, it's not all angles.
One angle is
Do
supplementary.
what? Okay.
On the other side,
Yes?
it can't be anything but it,
Why?
because it, like, has to equal, and same side, like, it has to equal
Okay.
180 for the line.
Okay.
And it's because of the 130s equal.
This 130 is 130, so therefore this
Yeah.
50 is 50.
Yeah.
Okay, alright. This is what I want you to be sure that your brain doesn't do. Be sure your brain doesn't do this. Oh, well if it's a parallelogram, then the opposite angles are congruent. That's 130 and that's 130, so therefore that must be 50 and that must be 50. Because that's what would happen in a parallelogram. You see that? What are you assuming that this is? A parallelogram. Did I ever say it was a parallelogram? No. What are you trying to prove? That it is a parallelogram. So you can't use its reasoning against itself because it was never proven. Yes, ma'am.
So would you use that one angle is supplementary to both of its consecutive angles?
That's the one I would use. Yeah. Read in the yellow box. Which one was that? First, second, third, fourth?
It's
Which one?
like second to last.
The second one to the last?
Yeah.
Okay, read the second one to last. What does it say to yourself? So what does that say? One angle is what?
Supplementary.
Supplementary to what?
Both of its consecutive.
It's
Consecutive angles.
consecutive angles. So is 50 supplementary to 130? Is 50 supplementary to 130?
Yes.
So does that mean it's a parallelogram?
Yes.
Yes, because of that reason. So if I were to ask you, prove or disprove this is a parallelogram, and I put this, you would say it is a parallelogram because one angle is supplementary to both of its consecutive angles. You see how that would work? Okay. Let's try this one.
No.
That's a number 3. Uh-oh, fight. One says yes, one says no. What is it?
I don't think so.
No. Tim, why not?
Well, just because those are parallel doesn't mean that it's a. Never mind.
No, you got it. You totally got it. I want to help you. You need to finish the sentence. You said just because these
Oh
are
yeah, it doesn't mean the
parallel.
other ones are parallel.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that the other set's parallel, right? What does this still have the option of being? It still has the option of being a trapezoid, right? We haven't eliminated one or the other. What is your? Okay. So, couldn't I have just drawn the same given information? Aren't both of those given? Same given information. So one of them is not true or false. Okay. What about if I do this? Does that have to be a parallelogram? If you say yes, you better be able to back it up. What you got? Tim says no. You say yes? Okay, I got a yes up here. You got a yes over here?
I think yes.
I got 2 yes. I got 2 yeses. Any no's?
Yeah.
You got a what?
Yes.
You got a yes?
Yes.
You got a yes? Yeses are winning.
It
Uh-oh.
says it right
How
here.
about back and back?
Yes.
Yes?
No.
Why?
Because
No.
because
Hey, she's talking.
one pair of the opposite sides are parallel.
Good. There is a property in there that says if one pair are both parallel and congruent, then it has to be a parallelogram. Okay? Imagine this marker is congruent to this marker. They're the same length, right? So if I were to just make them parallel and connect their ends, you see how that kind of makes like a little rectangle? So if I shove them that way, those opposite sides still have to be parallel. That's really ambiguous, I'm sorry, but that makes sense to me. So anyway, okay, number 5. What about this? Yes or no?
No.
It's kind of like this.
No.
You say no.
Just because something is
Why do you say no?
Because it says that both pairs of opposite sides are parallel, so both of them have to be parallel and both of them have to be congruent, or one of them has to be parallel and congruent.
Good. It doesn't say one's parallel and the other one's congruent. It says either they're both pair of opposite sides are parallel, or both pair of opposite sides are congruent, or one pair are both parallel and congruent at the same time. This doesn't meet any of those classifications.
What's the loop?
No.
Yeah. Can you draw one with the same given?
Yes. Isosceles trapelo that has the same given. Does that make sense? Or let me draw it going this way. Does that make sense? Okay. She asked a great question, Mr. Brown, can you draw one with the same given? Okay? If you start asking questions like that, that's when you're starting to figure it out. Okay, I'm starting to get it. Alright, does anybody have any questions about this? No questions? You think we're good enough? Okay. That's the serious part of it. Can you do the conditional part and can you do the converse part? Can you prove that it's parallel?
Can you do one more?
Sure. What number are we on? 6? Parallelogram, yes, no?
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Why?
You
You don't have a leg to stand on if whenever I ask why, if you are not repeating something out of that yellow box, you ain't got nothing to stand on. Okay? Both pair of opposite angles are congruent. You could actually get it by another one.
Yeah.
One angle.
One angle supplementary.
What you got? I'm listening to you.
Consecutive angles are supplementary.
Consecutive angles are supplementary. Good. Okay. 10, 170, 10, 170. You could also do the whole one angle is supplementary to both of its consecutive angles. You can do that a couple of different ways. Okay.
So, if like, is this plus